This is Radio Hereford FC, the home of the Bulls.
Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Bullscast. This week on the pod, Hereford exit the FA Cup to National League South Hemel Hempstead after falling to defeat in Tuesday night's replay. We'll discuss both games and analyse where it went wrong for the Bulls. We hear from Hereford United legend Ricky George as he reminisces about the famous 1972 FA Cup run, before we also look ahead to Saturday's trip to Leamington in the National League North. I'm George Holloway, and as ever, I'm joined by commentator Keith Hall. So Keith, Hereford are out of the FA Cup at the third qualifying round stage after suffering a 3-0 home defeat to Hemel Hempstead in Tuesday night's replay. Before we get into that, let's just touch on the first game briefly. Hereford were 2-1 up after 83 minutes last Saturday, and they had 1 foot in the next round.
Yeah, so close. 83rd minute, wasn't it, when Matthew Lewis got the leveller. Up until then, especially second half, I think we did enough probably to win the game. Amari Sterling-James was probably the pick of Hereford's player, certainly with that free kick, and also the cross. We got the assist for Hemel Campbell with the second. So he did very well. And in fact, I thought Sam Osborne, I was in the commentary box with Ricky George, and we both singled out Sam Osborne as being Hereford's player to really watch out for, because he was the one that was trying to get it down and try and be creative. So just a shame we couldn't follow that up back at Edgar Street.
Perhaps just a little bit too much time and space afforded to Matthews Lewis for the equalising goal, Keith?
Yeah, took it well though, didn't he? Shot it right across Theo Richardson into the bottom corner, the far side. You know, I thought he was a pick of their players, to be fair. Formerly with Luton Town, you could see that he's had good background, good coaching. He's obviously going to be an asset at this level, same level as Hereford, of course, in the National League South. And we remarked at the time that we thought they were a decent team. They've only lost once this season. That was away at Dagenham and Redbridge. So it sort of put it into context that Hereford had gone there and got a draw, but it could have been so close to a win.
Well, Paul Caddis made 2 changes for the replay at Edgar Street. In came Eno Ento and Ilani Edwards, while Williams and Richards dropped to the bench. Hereford started brightly, Keith, with Hemel Campbell coming closest to opening the scoring in the first 15 minutes. He had that header off the line and then his deflected effort onto the crossbar.
Yeah, really wanted one of those two to go in, didn't we? As we were kicking towards the meadow end, just the two sides of the ground used, and the atmosphere in the second half just dissipated. But in the first half, that first spell, if Hereford had scored and got on top early, then we possibly be talking about a different result, but they didn't go in. They hit the crossbar. Hemel Campbell, the goalkeeper, didn't have a clue with Campbell's effort that cannoned off the bar. It's just such a shame that didn't go in, but there we go. You know, you have to score when you're on top, and we didn't.
The deadlock wasn't broken until the 53rd minute when Miller Matthews Lewis converted a bizarre indirect free kick incident. It was Skinner's back pass to Richardson. Maybe he thought it had taken a deflection, but in the end the referee pointed to the indirect free kick, which was just outside the 6-yard box, and in the end Matthews Lewis converted on the third attempt. Hereford struggled to muster a response until Sam Osborne hit the underside of the crossbar from 25 yards out and saw the ricochet fall to Preston Batamo, Keith, who just got his effort all wrong from 6 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Rooney was there because he'd been brought on for a bit of experience, and it's probably a shame that the ball didn't fall to him, because I think with that sort of nous, he would have maybe even taken an extra touch before then hopefully stroking the ball home. But Preston Batamo, he's hardly had a game for Hereford. Came back from that concussion incident at Darlington. And, it's just a shame in a way that the ball fell to him.
That seemed to spark Hereford into life momentarily, but as the clock ticked down, the performance seemed to become a little bit more ragged. There were a lot of long balls up to Hemel Campbell that weren't reaching their target. And Paul Caddis said afterwards that he felt it was down to nerves.
Yeah, there's expectation there. The big tie against Yeovil, fourth qualifying round, probably with a full house, etc., etc. But as Caddis himself admitted, too many long balls throughout the game. Wasn't just the last few minutes. Yeah, I suppose there was nervousness there, anxiety that They were expected to beat, Hemel Hempstead as far as the home supporters were concerned. But when you're in a cup tie, surely you take the game to the opposition, and it seems very strange to a lot of supporters that we played one up top. I know there are injury problems, but surely you should find some way of giving Campbell a little bit of support close to him, because I just felt he went into the game wondering, how are we going to win this with just one up front? And so it almost dictated tactics, because if you got a striker up there, he is isolated. The only way you're going to hit him really is from deepest long ball. So I just feel we didn't play through midfield. I know there are problems with the size of the squad at the minute. So many walking wounded. No Lawson Darth. Parker's gone back to West Brom. Mafuta as well, he's been out. And there was some family issue with Madhu Cisse. So, yes, that there is a reason behind why Hereford was stretched. But even so, I think even with the players that we had, maybe we could have given Campbell a bit more support. But I'm surprised at the comments about Andy Williams not being fit. Why was he on the bench at all if he wasn't fit? Supporters, talking to it, I know we're all very depressed and very disappointed that Hereford went out with a bit of a whimper, really. We expected more from Hereford teams in the FA Cup. Whether the players were completely shot after all these games recently, that's got to play a part, obviously. But you just wanted to see more, I don't know, just get up and go, and it just didn't seem to work out.
7 added minutes gave us all a glimmer of hope until Finlay Wilkinson extinguished it quite quickly after latching on to Michael Johnson's punt forwards. And it was a calm finish. Yeah, it was. Game over, wasn't it? But people streaming out of the ground by that stage. You could see them disappearing from the meadow end. But it's so demoralising. And, good luck to Hemel. I don't think Yeovil will have an easy game at all down there on the 4G surface. And they've got some players that will do really well. So, overall, credit to Hemel. In front of just 16 away fans. That puts it into perspective a little bit, but even so, they've got a good squad and good luck to them. And I think it would be fair to say, Keith, that Hereford were looking pretty stretched when George Williams scored the third for the visitors on 95 minutes. Yeah, I think they were already in the changing rooms, but at that stage it certainly felt like it, because, you could say, we were gambling, trying to get back in the game at the other end, but realistically, I don't think they were. I think they already knew that they were out. Andy Williams, we thought he would make an appearance on the pitch. He didn't come on, and Paul Caddis said afterwards that he's been struggling with his fitness, Keith. Yeah, which seems strange because he's looked as fit as he's been recently. A couple of games and he was absolutely putting a shift in. So, maybe those games back-to-back has been difficult for him, but even so, you'd have thought you'd got, 10, 15 minutes from Andy Williams, and maybe that's all he needed. Again, had he been under that shot that hit the bar, I think he would have just rolled it in the back of the net. But, ifs, buts and maybes, and we just have to live with the fact that Hereford are out of the FA Cup. Yeah, and Hemel Hempstead move on. Their prize is £5,500 and a home tie against Yeovil. A little bit of a missed opportunity for Hereford. Would have been a big tie in probably the biggest of the fourth qualifying round. I would have thought out in excess of 4,000 crowd and all the rest of it, the prize money at stake. So yeah, it is a missed opportunity. I know they closed the Glen Western section of the ground against Hemel to save costs. Well, that almost has backfired because there wasn't much atmosphere around, that side of the pitch to try and help Hereford. Now, Hereford United legend Ricky George was part of our commentary team at Hemel Hempstead last Saturday, and whilst there he talked to Keith about the 1972 giant killing side and the earlier rounds of that famous FA Cup run.
I'd almost lost count of the amount of replays we had in that epic run in 71, 72. I don't know how many replays. I think we had about 8 replays.
Well, Kings Lynn was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Northampton, you played secondary play, I think it was. So that's 3 before you start.
2 replays.
Yeah. Then West Ham and Newcastle. So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It was a bonus, though, as well, in terms of the supporters being able to go and revenue from the attendances. So I can't understand it in terms of the Football Association ruling them out. It's only to help the so-called top clubs.
Exactly. The excitement of FA Cup replays was huge.
Talking off air about Kings Lynn was actually the first round, not the fourth qualifying. That was at home to Cheltenham. Tony Goff got a couple of goals, as you remember.
Yes.
But Kings Lynn, you were saying, away from home first. It was a 0-0 draw, but who was the hero that night?
Fred Potter. Yeah, it was about in the last couple of minutes, and Kings Lynn centre forward, got up, big lad, powered one far corner. We thought, we're going to lose 1-0 here. Fred dived for it, turned it round the post. Saved us, and saved the whole thing.
And then, of course, you beat Kings Lynn 1-0 at Edgar Street. Tony Goff again on target.
Yeah.
He was at peak form at that time, wasn't he?
Do you know, he played different positions, and he was club captain, but he could strike a ball beautifully with either foot.
Yeah, I do remember watching Tony Goff numerous occasions, usually wearing 7s, I seem to recall. Right. Quite stocky player, but he got a good passing range as well. You say got a good strike on him. Go back to that Cheltenham game then. So I don't think you ever played in the 3rd qualifying round, which is the level at which we're in today. You were in the 4th qualifying round to Cheltenham at Edgar Street.
That's right.
On that famous cup run. Tony Goff, the star of the show, with 2 of the 3 goals.
Yes. Well, we had players that loved to pass the ball around. We had players that wanted the ball, and we did pass the ball a lot. Tony Goff, brilliant with both feet, could strike a ball 20, 30 yards. He scored goals in normal league games as well. I mean, so he was a midfield come defender.
And he was the captain of the side.
That's right, yeah.
So it's partially down to him that the Giant Killers became the Giant Killers through his efforts in the early rounds.
If you supporters can remember the 3rd game against Northampton at the Hawthorns, this was 2nd round proper, and that was extra time. There was a huge amount of Hereford fans at that replay at the Hawthorns, not far from Birmingham. Probably at least 5,000 Hereford fans there. We were 1-0 down to Northampton, to Frank Large. And I remember our 2 goals that got us the victory. Dudley Tyler, he was the one that tucked the winner away. The equaliser was Ken Malander.
Didn't score too many, Ken, did he?
He was edge of the penalty area, and he struck it beautifully, and we couldn't catch him. I've never seen him run so fast. It was tremendous. You know, I mean, when we got in the dressing room at the Hawthorns after, we've won. Guys, we're playing Newcastle. We're going to go play Newcastle away. And I had to go up to Cheshire that night to Adidas, a sales conference. But before we all parted and went different ways, we went into Birmingham just to sort of celebrate.
Fish and chips, was it?
I think it was a couple of beers.
Really?
Probably some fish and chips as well. But when we were all, leaving, Billy Meadows, for some reason, decided to stick a cigar in my mouth. I've never smoked anything. So I said, well, I'm driving up to Birmingham now. So I honestly, when I got in the car, I still had it in my mouth. And when I not just up to Birmingham, I was going up to Cheshire. So when I got there, parked, I realised that I still had the cigar in my mouth. Because I couldn't think of anything else, but because it was such a famous victory. And this sales conference of Umbro Adidas then, the following day, the chairman of Umbro and Adidas, John Humphreys, he made a big thing of our result that night. It's so wonderful that, we've got a player here that played in the second replay of the second round of the FA Cup, and will be playing Hereford United, will be playing Newcastle United in the 3rd round, which is amazing. It's amazing 24, 48 hours.
Because you had tussles with Northampton for several seasons, or Hereford did. It was always seemed to be the cup draw. It's Hereford against Northampton. It seemed to be the classic.
That's right.
Back in those days.
Yeah.
I remember going to the county ground, which was the cricket ground at the time, with just benches all down the one side for the spectators. Ground at which George Best, I think, got. Was it 6 for Man U against Northampton?
That's right.
And Dixie McNeil, who later went on to be such a great striker for Hereford, scored against Hereford for Northampton in one of those earlier cup ties. So it's funny how things turn around.
Great to hear there from Ricky George, and if you'd like to listen to more of Ricky's stories about his time at Hereford United, you can catch him in the Hereford Suite as part of Edgar Street's Matchday Hospitality offering on the 1st of November, when the club will be paying tribute to another Bulls legend in Peter Isaac, who was recently awarded the Freedom of Hereford. It's a trip to Leamington this Saturday for Hereford as they return to National League North action. The Breaks sit just above us in the table, but come into this one off the back of 2 defeats as well as a suspended game up in Fylde, where they were 4-0 down when the game was brought to a halt. Leamington aren't in the best of form. Hereford's league form has improved, but of course a little bit of a setback on Tuesday night. How do you see this one going?
Leamington are always a difficult prospect at the new Windmill Ground. They've already won 3 and just lost the one at home, and that was to South Shields, who are leading the pack at the moment. So I wouldn't read too much into Leamington's away form as such. At home, they're totally different prospect. They know what they're doing. It's quite a narrow pitch. They'll be direct. They'll get a lot of long throws, free kicks and corners coming in. And Hereford will just have to dig in. A 2-1 defeat back in January the 1st. I know it was a cracking goal from Lawson Darth to level it up at 1 apiece. But then Henry Landers got a goal on the hour mark to make it 2-1. And it's just a typical match against Leamington at the new Windmill Ground. I think it'll be exactly the same. Really tight, really tough, and with the walking wounded, as I call them, for Hereford. Yeah, you have to look at Leamington, and they'll be fresh, and they'll be really giving it a go.
As for the Breaks, Keith, danger men, who should we look out for?
Well, got Owen Farmer up front, centre forward. I think he'll be partnered by Tim Berridge. Got Adam Walker in midfield. He's probably the dictator in centre field, the captain. And Hereford's Dan Meredith. He always finds 2 or 3 opportunities to bomb forward at pace. And if you back off him, he'll make great strides deep into the Hereford half, causing havoc. He made last season in and around the box and fired away a really fierce shot. So he's another one I think Hereford will have to look out for. A couple of players they've brought in recently. Archie Crowther on loan, centre-back, full-back. He's been on loan at Kettering. He's come in from Kings Lynn, and another on-loan player from Kings Lynn is Will Van Leer, so he'll pop into that midfield area as well. So they're actually boosting their squad at the moment. I know they've lost a couple. They've left out Max Ram and Ethan Hill, who've left Leamington, but Paul Holleran is such an experienced manager, has these contacts, keeps an eye on players that he thinks he might bring in, not just necessarily straight away, looks at them maybe when they're on loan somewhere else or on the fringe of a team somewhere else, and then tends to bring them in. And they're usually very industrious, wholehearted players committed to the cause. Maybe not the most fluent and most skillful, but they really do work hard, and that's what I say. Hereford have got to somehow match that on Saturday.
And if you look at Hereford, Keith, no Diath, no Parker, no Mafuta, Ento, who came off in that second half against Hemel with a hamstring injury. Hereford are down on numbers.
Very, very much so. I know Paul Caddis was talking about trying to bring loan players in. He's going to have to try and do that very, very quickly, I would have thought. I'd imagine that Parker, I thought he was talking about him playing in a 30-minute match or something with West Bromwich Albion to just test things out to a degree. So whether he could be recalled ahead of Saturday, fingers crossed there. But otherwise, there's no depth at all. There was only, I think it was 6 substitutes, including the goalkeeper against Hemel, one of which was Andy Williams, and he said he was struggling and wouldn't bring him on. So Hereford effectively down to 5 substitutes, and now I know Ento's pulled a hamstring. That's it, one more that's not going to be available. So it's tough times at the moment.
Do you see Paul Caddis, given the limited options that he's got, Keith, making many changes from the lineup we saw at Edgar Street on Tuesday?
Well, as I say, it's all down to those deals that he might be able to do. Get players in quickly on loan. The only thing with that I would say is if you're going to get youngsters in, which is most likely, I would have thought, it's a tough game to go into when you're playing Leamington with no experience of men's football, because you're going to get a rude awakening at the new Windmill Ground, I'm sure. They'll be battling hard, the Breaks, against the Bulls. And so if a youngster does come in, 1 or 2, and they're going to not only hit the ground running, as it were, but they've got physically, which they may not have been used to.
Yeah, and also maybe something that Paul Caddis will be looking to try and fix is that slight defensive fragility?
Well, yeah, you talked about concentration. It was such a weird one from Richardson. But in terms of the back four, set pieces and corners, Jay, the captain for Hemel, scored the opener down at Hemel from a set piece. It was to the far post. He got a header in which was blocked, and it sort of ricocheted to him. And he was the first to react. So perhaps the defenders need to just get a little bit better concentration, a little bit quicker, and just get a block in. They usually put their life on the line and get those important blocks in, but we haven't seen quite so many this season as we perhaps did last year. But whether the players are feeling the effects of Saturday, Tuesday, we'll never really know. But somewhere something's got to give if Hereford are to get towards that top 10 that we're all hoping throughout the season. And at the minute, it's looking very, very hard indeed. I'm sure Leamington will be looking to give them a real challenge, and that's up to Hereford to withstand that, be as resolute and marshalled well as they can be if they're going to get a result from this. If they've got a week off, obviously now because of the FA Cup exit, that will help, I would think, to just rally the troops, as it were, maybe bring a few players in and have a couple of training sessions with them, which Hereford simply haven't been able to do with the Tuesday night matches. But you then look at the games to come up. South Shields away, who are the league leaders, on the 18th of October. Telford at home on the Tuesday. And then Hereford are off to Fylde, another one of the promotion favourites. So a tough October ahead of the Bulls.
Let's take a look at the fixtures in the National League North this weekend. Telford are hosting Fylde, Buxton welcome Darlington, it's Chester versus Merthyr, and Kings Lynn versus Scarborough Athletic. Macclesfield versus Marine, while Curzon Ashton face a trip to Oxford City. Kidderminster, who are winners in their last 3 matches, are away at Peterborough Sports. It's Radcliffe versus Alfreton, Spennymoor versus Southport, while Worksop host Bedford Town. And there's a top-of-the-table clash as South Shields host 3rd place Chorley. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bullscast. Keith and I will be back in 2 weeks' time to review the Leamington match and also look ahead to South Shields. Until then, it's bye for now.
This is Radio Hereford FC, the home of the Bulls.